People, Deluded, I'm back again. Hope you're all doing well and safe, whoever you are, wherever you are. Now, you know, the season's done. Obviously, it finished on a high of sorts. You know, Arsenal, we can't forget that we finished 8th place. But at the same time, you know, it's always nice to lift silverware. And you know what, Arteta's been here 6 or 8 months and he's done a decent job. And it was a fantastic reward for not just him, but the coaching staff and actually also the players. They're the ones that had to go and win. Now the season's done. The season's actually going to be a fast turnaround. You know, we're back in September, so we see the transfer rumours. We see the rumours that go around. You know, Jadon Sancho is about to complete his long-expected move to Manchester United. Allegedly, is the biggest of key ones. And obviously, Arsenal is no different. You know, if you believe reports, we're getting Willan, Coutinho, Partey, and all of these things. So we'll have to see what happens in that regards. Personally, for me, I'd just like to see Aubameyang sign a new deal and a centre-half. Anything beyond that is a benefit for me. Would like to see Partey or a composing box-to-box midfielder of some stature. Moving on though, you lot know Willian has been linked with us for how long? He's been linked with us, Spurs, Barcelona. Long story short, the short of it is apparently, allegedly, you know, Arsenal are the front runners. And again, it's important to remember that apparently some reports are saying no talks have taken place. Some are, we don't know any facts until it arrives, and things like that. Some people are saying we're winning the race in relation to signing Willian. We've offered him a 3-year deal with an option of another. Instantly, he's laughing. You know, 32 years of age, or in fact 32 this week, 3-year deal tied down to your 35 with a potential of a 4th year, sorry. So, and we don't even know the projected base salary. We don't know any incentives or certain clauses that will be in that deal. Plus, allegedly, he wants to remain in London, so he's got that as well. So for him, he's laughing. From Arsenal, obvious concerns, people. Obviously, the first one being for me, I don't have a problem with Willian. I think Willian's a decent player. My thing is this: I'm not to be ageist, but we need to look at what we're doing right now. I think, you know, if you're not gonna, it's a weird one because I'm not ageist. I believe you can give contracts, but I do think if a player's not going to give you longevity, what he can offer you right now in this present has to be a madness. And I think that goes for Aubameyang. You know, Aubameyang's age is irrelevant. He looks after his body. He's got a number of years left in the tank. Regardless of how Aubameyang is in terms of how he feels physically, we should be looking for a long-term replacement. But for me, you know, the financial outlay on him, he's an exception to the rule because his age is nothing. Because for me, he's scoring goals. You know, you keep him for 2 years and you pattern up the rest of the side what Arteta wants, you can do things. You know, you'd like to imagine within the next 2 years, Arsenal need to be looking for another striker if Aubameyang stays. So obviously, Aubameyang's output and his present quality for me means his age doesn't matter. But the problem is, people like Aubameyang or people in that situation are a dime a dozen essentially, because with all due respect to Mesut Ozil, and you know, you have to talk about finances within reason with speaking about him. He's a quality player on his day. He's a quality, you know, technician and stuff, but mediocre returns would be to put it nicely. He's on big wages. Obviously, you've heard Socrates, his agent, say he's coming out and he's not leaving. He's on 90 grand a week. Who else is going to give him that at 32 years of age? David Luiz has just signed a new deal. Cedric Suarez is a bit younger than them, and obviously I get the signing behind Cedric Suarez, but you know, we've given him a 4-year deal. What incentive do these players have? Beyond me hoping, you know, and I know professional footballers, they want to win. I don't think they get as comfortable as people think, but what incentives do they really have, you know, to really want to make an impact at this club beyond personal pride? It does scream, it does feel a little bit, I can't lie, like it's becoming a retirement home. You know, like I said, exceptions to the rule. When you're like Aubameyang, it don't matter how old you are because he's doing the business. David Luiz, he stood up to be counted on Saturday. He's had good periods this season. He's also given away 5 penalties in the league, and you know, we signed him for 8 mil. How much is it when you consider his wages? How much is it when you talk about the fee and the wages that has gone into Socrates? And I've already said it, the boardroom have to earn their stripes. I mean, Willian's a good player, but I mean, the finances to the player we're getting, it doesn't match. It's important to remember, allegedly, whatever offer he had on the table a few months ago has changed because of COVID and whatnot. But I don't see what he's bringing to the table. On a good day, obviously, he's bringing experience. Obviously, he's a decent option. You know, there's been times we've needed a wide man to rotate, needed a wide man off the bench and things like that. And Willian is that, you know, and obviously he's got the experience and things like that. I think he's a decent at least when they play against us, I know he's never scored against us, but he puts in some decent balls into the box. I think Willian's an okay footballer. It's just mediocre returns for an outlay that I just simply don't think is worth it. Like this year, he had 9 goals and 7 assists in the league. In isolation, that's not bad when you mix it in with the rest of our side, and that we've got a real lack of goal scorers continuously. But prior to that, his highest return in the league is 8, people. And I mean, I have nothing against Willian, because stats can also go against players, and you know, some stats are inflated in the favour of a player, and some stats don't do a player justice. Like Iniesta probably should have scored more and was a baller, but he went a year in the league without scoring in La Liga. You still knew the quality was there. Not comparing the two players, just painting a point, people. So my only concerns is that, you know, for the outlay, you know, if it was a thing like Aubameyang, like he was levels like that, and you know the age is irrelevant, I'd be saying sign him up. I have concerns over, you know, just his ability. Does he evidently stand? If he comes into this team right now, does he evidently stand out? I want him to. I'll back him to. He'll have all my support, but he doesn't evidently stand out. So on top of the financial outlay, I just don't think he's worth it. So like I said, the finances involved just don't mean he's worth it. I don't know what we're getting in terms of application on the football field, because he on one hand, like I said, in isolation, that 9 goals or 8 goals, sorry, I think I said 9 goals, 7 assists, sorry, the league in isolation, that's decent. But Willian, if you speak to Chelsea fans, and that's one thing I had to learn speaking to Chelsea fans, he's not consistent like that. So we're still spunking a big outlay on a player that, you know, is bringing in mediocre returns. You might as well just save the peas, you know. And again, it's not a transfer fee, but what you save in a transfer fee, you might have to make up with giving the agent a few bobs. You know, we've got into bed with Kaya Juripkin, so he might allow us, but you know how these sort of things go, people. It don't make sense. When you look at, you know, when you look at his appearances for Chelsea, he's made 339 appearances, 62 goals, 63 assists in 339 appearances. You know, that's not necessarily the worst, but you know, he's made 300 odd appearances, 339, like I said, to be specific for Chelsea. He's only found the back of the net 37 times in the league, and he's a winger. It don't mean anything like that, but it just doesn't fill me up, people, with any joy, this sort of signing. Like I said, I'll back him. I don't think it's the end of the world like some Arsenal fans are carrying on with. I think he's a decent player and will complement the side. I just feel, especially in the wide areas, if you're not going to bring in, and again, Zaha goes against the logic, because you lot know I'm a big fan of Zaha, but emotion aside, there's no point really bringing in man that's not better than what you have, really, or evidently better than, or unless it's a thing where someone's got mad potential. I don't get it. Like, we can sit here, Willian experienced, he'd have a couple Brazilian players, obviously he knows the league, he's in London and all of these things, but I just don't think it's worth it. You know, you're going to give Willian whatever his outlay is, you're going to commit to, Ceballos is worth it, but commit to Ceballos on a thingy, on a loan spell. You know, I think these are cheap ways of getting around things. Obviously, we have to be creative in the market, people. We've got no money. You know, qualifying for Europe saved our bacon. Arteta, in his own words, said that gives a bit more creative room. You've heard he wants a winger. You've heard he wants a creative midfielder, or we need a creative midfielder as well as box-to-box. Clearly, we don't have the finances to fix everything in one window. So maybe we're being a bit creative in that, you know, we keep Ceballos, someone that on paper is someone that can break the lines. You got him on loan. You might have to pay a loan fee. So, you know, we give ourselves 12 extra months breathing room. You know, you bring in a free transfer in Willian, which technically is a wide man that Arteta wanted. You know, that gives you probably more wiggle room to commit a proper outlay on someone like Partey, who'll probably take the bulk of the transfer fee. Or what I would like to see, in the same way we spent 70 million on Pepe. I know the wage is structured a certain way, the wages and the fees and stuff. But go out and put a decent outlay on the centre-half, man. Go and scout centre-halves and go and try and get a low-profile one. But if it ain't there, go and bring in a quality centre-half. So if these sort of things give us more wiggle room to do things like that, then I won't say I condone it, but I understand it and I get behind it. And if Arteta's signed off on him wanting Willian specifically, then it is what it is, people. I'd much prefer younger talent, you know, unproven players with resale value. You know, resale value is what we need, and we're making a mess of things, you know. We need players with resale value. If you haven't got resale value, then like I said with Aubameyang, what you're offering currently, it needs to make up for that. Like Aubameyang ain't, you know, unless, you know, we all know with COVID, we're probably not going to make our, we can, but we're probably not going to make our peas back on Aubameyang, you know. even letting Aubameyang go on a free, I don't condone it because I want to see a transfer fee. But on one hand, I understand it because, you know, what Aubameyang's goals could be the difference between Champions League football. What is that financial outlay? Of course, it's a squad game and things like that. But literally, Aubameyang is the reason why you've now got an extra 30 million in your pocket based on Saturday's result. He's decided the game. You know, he scored 4 goals in the last 2 games en route to winning, to lifting that FA Cup with the final and the semi-final respectively. So if you're doing things like that, immediately giving us things, then I think you can veto certain things, and rules don't. There's exceptions to the rule. But we need resale. You look at David Luiz. David Luiz is laughing. I'm not here to bicker about players or rant and cry. You know, Luiz has had good periods this season. We just know, and I'd say this, most honest fans, you know, this place right now in July, can you say with your heart next year, end of the season, Luiz is going to give you a base level of performance that you think is required for getting top 4? I think if you say yes, you're a liar. That's not me getting at Luiz or anything. I just think number of centre-halves at this team, they show you that they're just not of the level required to move forward with. So you've given Luiz an extra deal and given him some wiggle room. You know, you've given Cedric Suarez, you know, more wiggle room. You know, Socrates is still going to stay here at least on the year on big wages. Ozil, you know, at the time I was fully behind him signing a new deal. In hindsight, we've shot ourselves in the foot. So there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of comfortability, and you know, as well as bringing in players, shifting players is a vital thing. You know, I wouldn't advocate 9 players leaving in one window, but we need to start shifting dead wood and things like that, or we're not going to get anywhere as a club. And they're the only things that concern me, is the finances involved with Willan, because I don't think the finances that will come in, the commitment, if you don't want to say finances, to his contract doesn't match the quality he's coming with. I genuinely don't believe that. Again, I'm more than willing to be proved wrong. I'm not one of these Arsenal fans that's going to hate Willan. I don't mind Willan. I think he's decent. I just feel what I've said, innit, people? So we'll have to see what it is, man. As you lot know, he's refused offers from Chelsea, you know, to extend it until 2022. They want to give him a year deal. Apparently, Kayip Jarutkin has held extensive discussions with Arsenal's technical director, Edu, and an agreement is allegedly close. Apparently, the North Londoners, us, are working towards signing him, as you lot know. Apparently, conversations over his future have evolved in the past few hours, and clarity is expected later this week. And for me, we also have to keep in mind, it's in Willian's best interest. He might turn around and legitimately stay at Chelsea, but it's in his best interest, if he's negotiating with Arsenal, to make out he's going to stay at Chelsea. If he's talking with Chelsea, to make out he's going to Arsenal or Spurs, you know, he could reject them for a second time, or any of this, because he needs, listen, he wants a 3-year deal and he wants an important contract. You know, his agent has come out and said he's got offers from MLS and things like that. You've heard he wants to stay in the league and wants to stay at Arsenal to compete at the highest level. I'm not too sure we've been doing that, but yeah, man, it is what it is in that regards. Clarity is expected later in the week. Apparently he'll get a decent signing on fee, as like typically most players will do, a multi-million signing on fee, as well as this lucrative contract of a 3-year deal plus the option of a 4th, you know. And there's also that carrot, of course, that, you know, he could see out. It's pretty unlikely he'll get that option of a 4th year, but just that had to know it could potentially be there is probably a carrot for him. So we'll have to see, man. We'll have to see. Moving away from that, Alex Bernard on Twitter said Arsenal and Juventus have been in intense talks regarding Lacazette. Lacazette's another contract we need to get sorted. Apparently Lacazette is enticed by the thought of playing with Blaise Matuidi, Aaron Ramsey, Dybala and Cristiano Ronaldo. We'll see what happens. Apparently Arsenal are still undecisive as to whether they want to discard Lacazette. I think you'll see progress in relation to whether he's staying or going, depending on what happens with Aubameyang. That's clearly contract number 1. You know, the only saving grace is we sorted out Saka's thing. You know, we've got the 2021 contracts. The big one is expected. Balogun is going to leave this summer or leave on a free. You know, you've got things that you need to do. Can you go and get a 5 or 8 or 10 million for Balogun? Can you go and, you know, decide the futures of Kolasinac, Eddie Nketiah, Kolasinac, if I haven't said that, and I think I said that twice, El Nene, players that are contracted until 2022, particularly. I don't think El Nene is. I think Kolasinac, Lacazette and Eddie is. You'd like to think Eddie, following on from Saka and Martinez, will be rewarded with a new deal for his own individual progress. And just to protect our resale value, he's contracted until 2022. He sits on his hands for a year. We're in a weak position in terms of negotiating. Away from that, though, apparently Sporting have rejected a 20 million bid from Arsenal for Gelson Fernandez, another client of Kai Jarupkin, actually another wide man. I'd be on more that than Willian, because if he doesn't turn out, you know, even if he doesn't improve, you'd imagine you can make 20 million back in this day and age. If not, he's only going to get better. There comes resale value. At the end of the day, if Willian comes in, for me, the signs of a true quality winger, and I might be being a bit harsh, can grab 10 goals, 10 assists and provide his experience when there, then, you know, it's irrelevant. You know, if he's doing the business on the football field, his finances are irrelevant. You know, other 30-odd-year-olds, we might be looking at a Bamian situation and staying, you know, you want to stay away from him. But he's scoring goals. Things are different. On the Coutinho front, apparently, according to Charles Watts, Barca are hoping to strike a deal with Arsenal, which would see Coutinho return to the Premier League, most likely on loan, while Arteta is hoping to add another centre-back to his ranks. Again, we need to probably see people moving. Apparently, Dani Ceballos is looking likely to return to Arsenal on another year's deal, people. Charlie Watts has also said. And he's also said with Europa League football now guaranteed, they will look to tie down Aubameyang for a further 3 years. An offer is expected to be submitted in the coming days, which would significantly increase his current salary, which should be, and you know, I mentioned it at the start, you know, in relation to Mikel Arteta, he said, in relation to qualifying for Europe next year, he said, I know how important it was as we needed to be in Europe. It's a must for our club, and financially it's a bigger step forward in order to allow us to do more things in the market and have a better structure financially. So let's see if that transpires into me. You know what? Obviously, more the better the player, the fee, but it's not always that for me. I want to see competent individuals. I'd much rather us go for players that might be rough around the edges than these sort of stopgap signings. Like, with all due respect to David Luiz and Socrates and potentially Willian, you know, free transfers can, and I know David Luiz wasn't, but sometimes when you penny pinch and make free transfers, it costs you in the long run. It's cost us at centre half because there's arguably no centre half glaringly obvious that's going to start. You know, and we're having to buy twice and 3 times again, and it does impact you. So I hope to God the club have a plan with Willian. I hope if Willian signs, he hits it off, because the club are not going to have, you know, specifically Vinay, Raul Sanye, Husfame, people above Arteta. You know, Arteta's probably been given a several list of names, and Willian's probably the Z option because we've exhausted everyone else. So I hope so. They're going to have a lot to justify, because again, with the way we are as a club financially, with COVID, with the playing staff, with what we've known for a number of years, you know, they have to, the people above Arteta have to pull it out to give him any chance next season. With all due respect, I don't see Arteta doing serious business if the same usual culprits are here without any additions. You know, we're not going to be a top 4 club we can hope for. You know, again, this is the same bunch of players that missed out by a point with Emre, and you could look on the bright side and say, yeah, we only missed that year through a point, but we all know it wasn't. We know we bottled it. We threw away that last period because of game management being a problem and the several things that we're praising Arteta for being able to fix. But to a degree, there's been times this season where Arteta's clearly set them out in the perfect way, and there's been several mistakes that he can't account for. Chelsea, yeah, we beat Chelsea at Chelsea and Thingy in the final, and I'm happy for that. It could have won another way, but do you remember at the Emirates, set out in the perfect way, threw a game the way in the last 21st minute, in the last 25 or so minutes. The same kind of happened for individual mistakes at the Bridge. So, you know, unless he's given players that are more competent, consistent, he can only reach a certain sort of period. You know, I think this is the best he could have taken some of these players. In fact, let me not lie, you know, if he had a full season, we might have finished 5th, 6th. That's being wishful, maybe 7th, probably 7th, but you get the point. He needs additions, and the people above him, to give him any chance of being a long-term success at Arsenal, have to do what's right. But we'll have to see, people, man. It's going to be an interesting summer because business, you know, it's, the domestic window's open until October, but I believe. But, you know, deals are going to have to be done early for teams if they want these players. So we'll see what happens, man. But on that note, it's always a pleasure. Deluded, I'm out.